As someone who has studied humans her whole life, I have realized one thing that most people don't recognize when it comes to their things. The things that you own, the things that you buy, you like it, but eventually and over time, it owns you and you become enslaved to it.
Letting go isn't always about the letting go of people. A lot of the times, letting go is letting go of things that also no longer serve us. Hey, everybody, it's Bianca.
Welcome back, Evolvers. It's Emilia, and today we are going to be digging into clutter, hoarding, letting things go, materialism, consumerism, all things that people don't necessarily care per se about, but we're going to make sure that it connects to things that you, dear Evolver, do care about, which is your finances, how overwhelmed or exhausted you are, your energy stores, how much time you feel as though you have to dedicate to yourself. Maybe that's self-care, and help connect the dots of things that might not necessarily be on the front of your mind right now, and help by the end of this episode you to, for lack of better words, close the tabs that are open in your brain, right? So just like on a browser, if you have a billion tabs open on your computer's slowing down. That's the analogy that we're going to use here. When you have a billion different tabs open in your life, AKA you have 1,000 different things, look around your home, look around your house, even look in your car. The things that we own eventually end up owning us, and we don't realize how much that's zapping us of our precious life and energy. So Bianca, I want to share with you it's one of many conversations, to be honest, that I've had with this client. And you and I have had many a conversations, kind of in the interim between clients. But there was this one call that I had with this client whom you know, and I'm sure you'll connect the dots, but obviously keeping it confidential for this individual. We were on a phone call and we were talking about just what started in business, started to kind of carry over to life. And we were talking about organization, because he was saying, Emilia, I'm pretty overwhelmed. I'm pretty stressed out. And we got in the topic of talking about environments. And you know me, I'm a sucker for talking about environments and environmental design and how much our environments really can enliven us, or it can be the inhibitor of whatever it is, our productivity, our success, our fulfillment, etc. And so I was asking him, I said, how do you organize your space, like at home? Let's talk about home, because when we talk about these needs that you have, dear sir, there's a lot of needs are going unmet, but I'm noticing that, like, even just when I'm on the phone with you, you're like stepping over things. You're like moving in what from an interior design standpoint is not necessarily the normal footpath of a home. And I can see him getting, because one of the calls that we've had just so happens to have been in his home. And I could see a ton of stuff that's in the background just piled up and just tons of clutter. And to the extent where it's bridging on the hoarding capacity. And we ended up talking about it. And I said, he vulnerably shared with me, he was like, it actually is so painful for me to even think about organizing my stuff. And he said, Emilia, you wouldn't believe it, but I know where everything is. I know where everything is amongst the piles and amongst the mounds of paperwork or boxes and stuff in my house and in my business. And I said, okay, that's great. However, like, what is the pain underneath organization for you? And he said, as when people start to kind of, in my business, reorganize those piles of paperwork, it's me trying to understand other people's brains. Now, just this client just so happens to have ADHD to a very interesting degree. He is a neurodivergent individual who has consistently gone for 40 plus years not meeting his own needs. So the way in which the stories and the beliefs around his piles of clutter have gotten pretty large and pretty deep intensive, to where he's convinced himself that organizing is painful. And there are parts of it that's true. Now, I want to bring this experience that I had with this client and some of the things that we talked through, which was, you've had to make these stories, these narratives, your reality, because no one has actually helped break down how many contributing factors we have at play here. So, for example, this person has 50 batteries that are not in use, just in storage of that thought of, well, one day I might need these, right? That's one of the pervasive thoughts that he shared. He's like, one of my parts says I'm going to need those eventually. Or when I try to, remove something or donate something, there's this thought that's a utilitarian that says, one day I might need this. But here's the thing, like many of us, that one day never comes around. So what does it do? Just stacks up, right?
Or it's on sale, so buy 50 of them.
Exactly. Oh yeah. Yep. Exactly. So, and he's succumbed to that as well. So, what I think is actually really interesting about this though, is that whether you're someone that struggles with executive functioning, that contributes to the organization and prioritization and realistic weighting of something that is of utility and the time frame to which you're going to use that, whatever it is, whether it be batteries or whether it be extra toilet paper, or something just basic. Or you're someone who doesn't struggle with executive functioning. You're not someone who has ADHD or ADD, and this isn't necessarily affecting your life per se. I do know that all human beings are not extraordinary and exceptional at not having the things that they buy or the things that they bring into their home not end up over time really owning them. So think of the person, Bianca, like think of the people in your life or the people that you've come across with, and think about the people who have been very discerning with what they buy, to kind of connect to our last episode, what they buy and what decisions they use money to bring into their home. What is the purpose? What is the decision-making process that goes into, I need this, or the pretend impulsive decision that says, I want this. And then they bring, 4 extra sneakers into their home, or they bring another tool set into their home. Think about that person and think about the decision-making that's underneath that. And the person who is the most minimalistic versus the person who has the most clutter. Those two people go through a very different decision process, even before they need to let things go. And the minimalist, that person's life is not necessarily owned by having to maintain the things that they have in their world. Whereas the person with the clutter, there's an open tab, there's an open loop of energy that's being siphoned out of them because they have so many things that essentially require the maintenance, the movement from one pile of the house to the next pile of the house, just shuffling things around. And think about who has more time freedom, who has more energy freedom. It's going to be the person that's the minimalist because of the decision that are brought in when it comes to tangible items, when it comes to, let's say, even properties. I know people who have multiple properties and multiple cars and multiple things. They spend their entire life shuffling from one property to the next property, one asset to the next asset, one car to the next car, maintaining it on its own individual maintenance schedule. And it's like, okay, yes, you might love those benefits of having multiple things. But if you were to ask me how much that person actually have leisure time, play time, creative time, it's bar none. So again, this client, individuals all over the world, we all have our own relationship with tangible items. But why is it that certain clutter is hard to let go? I think is a very subjective, very humanistic problem, very big challenge that we're not thinking about until we have essentially zapped ourselves of precious life force energy. And I want to talk about it because I think that it's something, especially with the seasons transition. I mean, I'm such a homegirl when it comes to like from summer to fall, leveraging those moments to slice away the things that don't really serve us and to let go the things that don't serve us, and to use Marie Kondo, who is a woman who a lot of people know in the interior design industry. She has been someone who has brought the art of sparking joy in her Japanese background when it comes to organization, holding something in your hand and asking yourself the question, does it spark joy? And if not, get rid of it. And just all of these components I want to break down. I want to see what can we help our listeners with so that, again, the beginning of the intention of this episode was that there's open tabs in our life. There's open tabs in our consciousness that is zapping us and contributing us to feeling overwhelmed, and also not being discerning when it comes to what things we're consuming. Because the last thing that I'll say on here is that the consumption rate of society right now is way more than the letting go rate, or the recycling, or the reducing rates, if you will. And I, as an environmentalist, have a big concern when it comes to that. I, as someone who cares about people's mental health and well-being and the bigger impact of that, want to talk about it. I think that that's important. So talk to me. What have you seen, Bianca, when it comes to your clients? Why certain clutter is hard to let go of as well? And maybe you and I can give some helpful tips to anyone that is not necessarily directly struggling with this, but also maybe something to consider so that our listeners can recognize, oh, okay, I might not directly identify with struggling with letting things go, but it might be a contributing factor as to why I feel overwhelmed, anxious, burnt out. My bank account isn't where it wants to be. So let's kind of weave those together.
Clutter isn't just necessarily tangible items in your home. However, that is a massive proponent of it. Clutter can also be following social media pages you don't need to be following. Clutter might be the amount of different apps you have on your phone that you're not deleting, even though you've literally never opened it. You used it once and you never went back into that app again. So clutter can mean many different things. So use whatever example you're thinking of in this episode. But Emilia and I right now are talking about tangible clutter. But clutter can be mental clutter of thinking about things that aren't relevant to you, that don't matter to you anymore. Clutter might be relationships you have that are no longer serving you. Clutter might be, like I said, things in your phone, pictures that you could put somewhere else that don't need to be in your phone. But we're talking specifically about tangible right now. So from my understanding, and just to give context in this episode, the acquiring of things, which we are calling clutter, typically comes from what I've seen of one of two camps. Number one, I believe that I am significant in having these things. So I'm going to accumulate and acquire more and more and more because of what I believe it means about me. It's like, why does someone need 7 cars? You literally don't. It makes you feel significant. It makes you feel special. The other side of this is you are using clutter and the attainment of items to make up for a feeling that you are not getting somewhere else in your life. So I have a client right now, and she and I have been openly talking about this, who hoards books. Every time she goes to the bookstore, she spends like $500 on books that she never ends up reading. She goes to these like book fairs, and she said the last time she went, she spent $2,000 on books.
Oh my
and
gosh.
She never read any of them. She read maybe, I think she said, a fifth of them. She actually read them, and she's realistically not going to read them. Why does someone need that many books? It's because of the excitement and the thrill of the chase and the feeling that you get from, oh my God, I'm getting something new, which ties into what we were talking about in the last episode regarding money wounds. And this also ties into dopamine and the chase and the exhilaration of having a new experience and what that does to us and so on and so forth, whatever. The reason this is significant is because most of us are outsourcing our feelings to things outside. Oh, I'll feel good when I have X. I'll feel better when I have Y. Or I'm going to feel bad if I have to let go of these things because of what I have made them mean about me. So like this client, her mother is an actual hoarder. Their house should be condemned because of how like disgusting and atrocious it is. Mail and boxes and junk and dirt and whatever. She said you literally can't walk a step in front of you with how bad it is. When someone has literal hoarding disorder, it's an anxiety disorder. That's what it's categorized under, unless in the new DSM they reorganized it, but I'm pretty sure that it still falls under a anxiety disorder. What that means is you are doing a behavior of hoarding, which is basically a compulsory behavior, which basically means you're doing it compulsively to make up for a feeling you're having or a negative thought. So if I have to fill my home with things and I'm afraid to get rid of things because I have a negative feeling about it, it means that you are replacing and supplementing and navigating feelings through this behavior, but it's actually doing more harm than good. So many of us do this. And we don't want to admit it, but how many of you have a closet full of clothes that you've never worn? Wasn't there research? It's the Pareto principle. We wear 20% of our clothes 80% of the time. We wear 20% of our shoes 80% of the time. We all have stuff that we don't need.
My name is Mandy, and I'm here to chat with you about group coaching with Evolve Ventures. I signed up for group coaching because I was looking to connect with other people who were going through similar struggles that I was. It was really nice to see that I was not the only person feeling the way I felt, having the thoughts that I was having or having the same struggles. It was really empowering to be able to connect to other people, share our journeys, kind of just grow together from, and all of us are coming from so many different walks of life. And that's really what I think made group coaching such an amazing experience for me, because I definitely learn through stories and experiences. So getting to hear other people's perspectives and their experiences definitely helped me grow. Highly, highly recommend group coaching. It was so good.
But what does it mean to let go? What does it mean to get rid of? What does it mean to not have? I've definitely struggled with this too. I'm someone who grew up in a home where acquiring things was never really an issue. I'm super grateful. My parents worked really hard. They weren't wealthy by any means, but we weren't hurting. So new clothes every weekend. We went out, we did things. It was never a challenge. So then when I started having my own money, that narrative just continued. Oh, I need 20 pairs of sneakers. Yeah. And we convince ourselves of these narratives that, oh, well, it's fine. Well, everybody does it. Well, I'm just a sneakerhead, or I'm just a fashionista, or I just like collecting jerseys, or whatever the case may be. We convince ourselves of a narrative that we need these things, and we get so caught up in the times. Like everyone buying a fucking Labubu right now, whatever the hell. Have you heard of that?
I don't even know what that is, but it sounds like a Band-Aid.
Emilia, it's this stupid ass fuzzy little toy that people are spending like $400 for.
That is outrageous. Emilia, that is absolutely outrageous.
It's ridiculous. But people are spending
people need purpose so bad.
And
oh my goodness.
People need hundreds and hundreds of dollars, or spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars on stupid shit just because they want to feel significant, right? just to feel significant. Why is you acquiring a plush toy the only thing that makes you feel significant? Why are you on a bidding war on eBay for a t-shirt you're never going to wear? We have so much clutter and just so many items and tangibles and things and people and concepts and ideas and feelings even, that we're being so consumed by, because so few of us are actually doing the inner work to navigate the feelings that we have coming up for us that make us feel like acquiring a new thing is going to be the resolve.
Yeah, it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. And that is just like so concerning. So that letting go, it's wild. And I love that, Bianca, you brought like multiple aspects of clutter into the folds because while yes, we're talking about in like tangibles, there's a lot of intangible clutter that we really struggle to let go of, you know, even emotions, even like right now, the sludge on social media. Alan and I were talking about it right now.
God.
So I love that
It's
you brought up,
so
you know,
bad.
different followers and whatnot. I was
Didn't you say you gave someone a book called Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess and they got pissed at you?
Bianca, I gave every woman in my family that book. I was
They got
that
pissed.
naive and ignorant. Guys, this is actually hilarious. And if any of my family ends up listening to this,
Sorry,
not sorry. Like at the end of the day. Okay, Dr. Carolyn Leaf's book, which is called Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess, which is essentially a like world-renowned researcher when it comes to neuroscience and how our brain and our health is literally going down to the extent that we have a mental mess, which is literally like it refers to everything that we talk about on this podcast and everything that we share from clinical experiences, which is automatic negative thoughts, which is limiting beliefs, which is the things that contribute to those being perpetuated in our life, right? And one of the things that I was silly enough to think was a reality was that people actually care about their health. People actually care about having a better life. When in reality, what I consistently see, which breaks my effing heart more than I can ever say, this is why like you can see me getting fired up with what we do at Evolve, because people say they want a better life, but then they won't read the books that actually do literally lay it out in front of them. People would rather complain in their misery and stew in their own victim mindset than actually take the guidance that is so clinically backed and research with data that showcases exactly what to do. And I was naive enough to think that the women in my family would actually choose to read a book that is extremely important from my perspective, of course, as a scientist, instead of reading a fiction novel thing that creates this imaginary world. And I went out of my way to procure, in supporting this female researcher, like 6 or 7 books. I hand wrote a note on the inside of this to each person because I actually care about their long-term health, well-being, life. I don't care about the frivolous things. And I gifted that to every single female. And I got laughed at. Like, I don't think one person's actually opened up that book. And the thank you was my goodness, this girl is so naive. I would never read something like this. So why I share that is because it's so easy to procure things, to acquire things in our life, be it the plush toy or the fantasy novel that, yes, I'm all for sparking creativity, but also why don't you consider working on your actual life? How about that? What would that actually contribute to? Oh my goodness, the things that you actually say that you want, or rather, let me say the inverted, the things that you don't want in your life. This is the other side of that. I was reading and I was super, super pulled to, Bianca, this morning, Lucius Seneca's work on the shortness of life. And reading that, for anyone that hasn't read that, it is a Stoic-based philosopher whose work has inspired so many people and so many world-renowned authors will go back to the quote-unquote Stoic philosophers. And in that book, to this whole tangible component, it's fascinating to me how we are so quick as human beings, and this is currently when my heart continues to break in this arena, and I want to be real about this. We are so easily distracted by accumulating commodities, when in reality, our life and the time that we have is the most precious thing, is the most finite thing. And it was just helpful to hear, and going back to on the shortness of life, how easy we do get distracted and distorted and how easy it is for human beings, because we're animals, right? At the base level of our neurochemistry, we are animals. And so many of us are living in an animalistic like way of life where we are distracted by the dopaminergic, flashy, novel stuff like the plush pillows or whatever, or the possessions of 8 different cars, or the needing to please other people, and really struggle to actually work with the pain or the discomfort that comes with the process of letting things go, the process of when you are maybe out and about, having the intention or setting the intention to, no, I'm not going to buy $2,000 worth of books because that $2,000 could otherwise be reallocated to something that I actually long-term want, right? The discomfort that we have, if I could give the gift to anyone listening to this that is struggling in their life, we can probably trace with a very 3-stop pen of why you're struggling to the decision making that's underneath, the acquisition and letting of things go. And to something that you said earlier, and I'll get off my soapbox after this, is the emotional component of letting things go. I had said impulsively when you were talking about that plush pill, like people need purpose. People need purpose. Like, that is brutal. Spending money they don't have on things that they don't need. That is like, what type of entitlement in society do we have? It's outrageous. Anyways, purpose. How can you actually let things go when you don't have any quote unquote driving purpose? Bianca's laughing because I'm kind of going off, but like, this is a real conversation.
I completely agree, Emilia. When somebody told me that they spent like $300 on a plush toy, I wanted to smack them. It's like, are you?
See, that gets me fired up to say, let's drive your purpose. Yeah. But like, here's the thing. Why? Okay, so I'm going to round this out with tacticals. Why certain clutter is hard to let go of is because, number one, I'm going to go back. You have no purpose. You do not have a driving, transformational purpose in your life that you have self-identified with. So I know that's harsh, that's rash, that is very blunt. However, when you peel back the decision-making process, you have a purpose in life. You just have not had the courage to clarify it and to be convicted by it. And so my question is, how can you clarify what your unique purpose is? I believe it's Stephen Clutter that refers to it as your massively transformative purpose in life, your MTP, which is, for example, my massively transformative purpose in life is to evolve human consciousness. That is what evolve is here to do. Now, obviously, that's a big one.
Not everybody's going to have some massive purpose. Your purpose might be being the best mother that I could possibly be. Your purpose might be living my life to the absolute fullest capacity that I can. What would bring meaning to your life on your terms? Not everybody has to change the world for your life to be meaningful.
Thank you for saying that. And also, like, what is I know that like it's so quick to be like, well, I don't have no. What is your massively transformative purpose today? Just start there. Will help change your mindset to be from the emotional roller coaster that allows your decision making to acquire and consume things that are unnecessary, aka that are emotions, temporary, subjective based grabs, if you will, that then end up owning you and your time and precious energy for the rest of your life until you get rid of it. The second thing that I would say is going through a kind of like a stop gate prior to actually acquiring more clutter, more items. If you have one already at home, having a stop gate decision for you before you walk into a store and making that decision before you go in there, that is so important. So for example, if I already have one set of dishes and I go into said store, I will not, my rule of thumb for myself is I will not go and buy a second one. And here's the catch. If I do, then I have to get rid and recycle or donate the one that exists in the same day within 5 minutes of walking into my house. Without rules, people think rules are like really constricting, but without guidelines, rules, encouragements, expectations of oneself, you're going to just be in the spiral of the victim mindset of it's so difficult to let things go. And this isn't just in the intangible world. This is in the digital world. This is in the fantasy novel world. This is in so many different aspects of your world. So Bianca, I just gave to you, what are some tactics that you would help suggest to people who are struggling to let go of their clutter or in any of that decision-making emotional based process?
This is an emotion regulation issue. You keep cluttering things and you can't let go of things, and you're having the issues that you're having because you don't know how to emotionally regulate. So you're looking to external things to give you a feeling or to change the feeling you currently have rather than actually addressing the underlying emotional distress that you're having. And I know because I did it too. Why do you think I bought fucking 50 pairs of sneakers that I didn't need? I wanted to feel better about myself. I wanted to know. I wanted people to see me as like cool. That's why I got half the tattoos that I got that I'm now getting rid of. Like, we make impulsive, stupid decisions because we're chasing a feeling rather than understanding, why am I making this decision? What am I hoping that buying this thing is going to give me? Does it actually have to come from this? Or can I get it from something else? Well, what's the story that I've made in my head? What's the story that I've been telling about myself about this specific thing? Doing that, easier said than done. We completely understand that. That's what therapy is for. But this doesn't have to keep being this way, and this doesn't have to stay this way. If you want to clean up your clutter, it starts with the clutter in your own head. It has to start there. We got to wrap up. Episode suggestion?
My episode suggestion is 307 Motivation Monday, the reasons you are not changing. And
Mine
yours?
is, I couldn't see the number, 396, the best habit for dealing with stress. We know this is slightly activating. We know that this is overwhelming for a lot of people. That's okay. Put your judgment aside, and can you still hear what we said? All right, everybody. We will see you next time.
Bye everyone.